Okay, so I decided that I was really not crazy about those lines that were showing up in my image. So I went back and I reapplied the patch tool in a slightly different way. So rather than making a rectangular selection and then using that, you can actually make a selection with the patch tool itself. So without anything selected, see how it's got the little arrow connected to it? So I made it much bigger of a selection, and that's going to give me a different or a larger resource copy here. And it doesn't really copy exactly what's there, it just sort of um, creates a blend of the two layers or the two areas and makes it much less noticeable. So you can see if I just go back, I'm going to go back to my, like that's what it was originally in my history here, and applying the patch tool. So, it's not a copy exactly of that exact same spot, but it just works to blend in. And you can do that if you ever find other repeating areas or things that are not looking exactly right. This patch tool is really effective for helping fix that. So same thing on this layer, you got to make sure you're on the right layer and just find another area. And if you find different areas each time you do it, you're going to have a slightly different result. So it's much less likely to look like it's just a tiled pattern on there. So it looks much more realistic that way. Okay, so next I'm going to work maybe on the floor. I haven't decided what texture I want to use yet for this. So let's go into our files. Do a wooden floor. What is this one? Now this is interesting. This is a definitely different style. Clearly not a realistic texture like these other ones that I've been using. This one's kind of cool, but the color is definitely wrong, but maybe we can fix that. So let's use this one. So open this up and pull it away and use my move tool, and let's drag it in and see what we got. All right, so definitely a different color than the rest of the images here. Scale-wise is probably a little big, but we're going to be transforming this quite a lot in order to make it work for us. So it might end up being okay, but I do think I will scale it down just a little bit. I'm actually going to hold my shift key down so I can squash it some too. That looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and rename this now. Let's call this stage floor. All right, so I want that to be able to encompass all of this area, so I'll just bring that over. I'm going to select it. I'm actually going to select outside of it and inverse that selection so it's just so. And then hold down the Option key, the Move tool selected. And this is probably going to be pretty obvious. So maybe what I can do is while that is still selected, I'm going to go in to my transform and flip it. So now we just have a little bit of a overlap there. Do the same thing here. And if you hold down the shift key as you slide things, it also will keep it in line. It's another good trick to know. Let's rotate that back around. And I've just got a tiny little bit left, so I'm just going to use the free transform tool and slide that over just to, and hold the shift key so it doesn't just hit the scale. All right, so that all stayed on that same stage floor level. Alright, so it's a little bit of ink blot test, but that's okay. Alright, so from here, I just want this, I'm going to get a little bit better of a perspective look on here. So I'm going to actually do a bit of free transform first and enlarge this some. I'm just going to use the side, I'm going to stretch it. I don't really need it to get any taller than that. That's okay. And then let's see what happens if we use the perspective. So I'm going to drag these top pieces. Now with this very sort of random pattern, this may or may not be that big of a noticeable difference as we set it. If there was more of a pattern or texture or something to this, it would make a much bigger difference, but I think that'll be okay. And then all that's left at this point, go to my channels, find my stage floor layer, there it is. Click in there, holding down Command, inverse, and I should be able to then delete that. Deselect. Now, that coloring doesn't match anything up here. So I could go to my adjustments and let's try the hue saturation. That'll be my first choice. And it's kind of doing all the colors, so it's affecting, sliding this up and down definitely affects all the different colors. You can also just affect certain colors, so it's like that cyan. Let me All right, so that, oh, I don't know. I'm not totally sold on that. Let's go back. Actually, I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to keep some of this extra floor just in case I decide I want to go back and do something else. I'm going to make a copy of this. So Control J. And I'm just going to turn it off just so I have it, slide it down. Put it down there. Ultimately, this layer is probably going to be much farther down in my hierarchy here as well, but for now, this will be okay. So I've kind of decided I don't like the position of that quite so much either. So I'm just making a quick adjustment. Okay, so I'm going to try a different way to change the coloring on that. And let's try our match color. And our source, well, let's see if we can get it to match that stone wall. Ah, there we go. There's an interesting change here. There's only one layer on that stone wall file. So the source is going to be, it's going to give you the choices of any open files that you have. So I could have chosen the file I'm working in and a specific layer. So I can choose this one. This is what I named it, and then choose my layer. Stage right wall, stage left wall face, and get a basically the same result from that. Remember, you can always go in and change some of these options in here to create different effects. Fade it out as necessary, but I think I like that. So I'm definitely more a fan of this final finish.